And we're live! Hello, everyone. Welcome to PunchStarter. For the simple reason punch is better than a kick. PunchStarter. Where the others get to pitch me ideas. Based on a theme. This month's theme is a DC comic video game with no playable superheroes. So, first, let's meet the contestants. Weighing in at approximately 50 pounds, he hails from New York City Library. Give it up for James Phoenix.
Thank you.
And weighing in from, I believe, Seattle, Washington, home of the Seahawks, woo, it is Marcus Shadow, host of There's More.
Oh, thank you.
Not Asian enough, try again.
He just sent his people back.
And lastly, you may know him as Sad, you may know him as With Kids, but tonight he's here to win the prize of a fictional car. Give it up for Richter Hammer.
Hello.
Yeah, that's the prize. Every week, every month, it'll be a fictional thing because I don't have to give it you. But
I just want a sound clip of a new car, which is like a fictional car. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
And I will say they were given DC Comics video game no playable superheroes. That's what they had to pitch me. And I've made categories that I haven't told them in advance. And we're gonna see this. And each category I'll arrange them by order of who's pitched, and then each time I'll just put one up, two, you know what I mean, so forth. And each person will win a round, and overall I will pitch which one has either won the most, or if it's a tie, I will break the tie. So, first up is story mode, or story, because it doesn't necessarily mean a story mode. So, if you've got any elements of a story, not all games need this, don't worry. Take away first, contestant number 2, Marcus Shadow. That was the crowd going wild because I don't have sound effects.
Ah, okay.
So should I give the name of the game first before I do the story?
Yes, you can introduce the name of it and then talk about the story.
Alright, so I call it Riddle Me This. It is a point and click / squad based strategy game where basically the story is you're the Riddler's right hand man, or you're the guy who wants to be the Riddler's right hand man, and the first part of the game is you go around doing like puzzle stuff in the point and click adventure to try to acquire things for one of Riddler's like heists or crimes or whatever, and he gives you the layout and the plan. And once you've acquired the stuff, then you actually go and have to carry out said heist or crime in the squad base where you're leading the Riddler's men, and you have to go, like, for instance, to say if it's a bank heist, you have to go steal money out of the bank, and then you also have to plant the Riddler's riddle for the police. So that's kind of the story. It's you trying to rise through the ranks and trying to prove yourself to the Riddler that you deserve to be his right-hand man.
Nice. And that is a pretty cool story. So, to take away next, contestant 3. That's Richter.
All right. Okay. So my game is called Metropolis Snapshot, and the story of the game, or what you would do for the story mode or whatever it would be called, is you're playing as Jimmy Olsen, and you have to get to crimes to try to take pictures of Superman in action. So you have to you'll get the assignment from Perry White, and then have to get there and try to get there before Superman, or not like necessarily before him. He's faster than a speeding bullet, but you got to get there so you can take some good pictures of the crime, and you get rated based off how good the pictures are, and if they're focus or in frame or whatnot. And if it's good enough, then it can be on the front page, and you can keep your job.
Nice. Will there be a bonus DLC where you have to give Superman gifts so he destroys? I'm kidding, but that was a cool story. And take away last, James.
Okay. How detailed into the story are we going? Is it just a basic summary? Is that what we're doing here? Because I know how far they went, but mine's a little more detailed. I don't know how much you want.
I would say go with as much the story as you can, as long as it's not too long. Like as long as it's not like pages of story.
It's not pages. Just I kind of laid out some of the levels, but I'll just give you a basic synopsis for now. My game is called Forever
Well-
Evil.
I was gonna say if it helps, I didn't really go into much of the gameplay of my game, just that basic story behind it.
I don't really go much into the gameplay anyway,
Yeah,
but
you shouldn't have gone into the gameplay. It's story part.
Yeah.
yeah, it's story anyway. So anyway, mine is called Forever Evil, based on the DC Comics 2014 New 52 storyline of the same name. So forewarning, spoilers. But the basic premise is that via a series of circumstances that would be shown in an opening, one of those opening clips that they play to lead up to the menu type of things. Basically, the crime syndicate of Earth Zero, consisting of anti-heroes such as Ultraman, Superwoman, Owlman, so on and so forth. You've known them for various storylines past. Basically have opened a hole into Earth 3, which is the primary DC universe of the New 52. And they basically attack and kill the Justice League, as far as anybody knows to start anyway. The Justice League are dead, and they are taking over this planet. And as one might imagine, being the opposite of the Justice League, they're kind of dicks. So Lex Luthor decides, no, fuck this. And Lex Luthor goes on a one-man mission to basically save the Earth, because he's Lex goddamn Luthor. Throughout the course of the game, following close to the storyline, but not exactly, because I think it'll be a little bit better for gameplay purposes if they change it a little bit. Basically, you play as Lex Luthor and a variety of supervillains that he gathers to work with him to basically fight through various wrecked cities, and it's an action adventure kind of fight through level, fight a boss standard type of thing, and basically, Lex Luthor throughout the game gathers various supervillains that you can play as and switch to in various levels, and will basically have to complete certain tasks, eventually leading up to finding the members of the crime syndicate and killing them and stopping them and whatnot, and reclaiming Earth at all cost.
And nice. I like that story too.
Yeah. I didn't know if you had read Forever Evil yet. I know last time we brought it up you hadn't read it yet, so
I hadn't read it, but I knew what was happening in it.
fair enough.
But I will say that was pretty cool, and I will say, based on writing them down in order of how I liked them, the winner of that round was Jim.
Yay.
Oh, thank you. Damn
So
it, where's the
now-
applause button? There it is. Thank you.
So now we go on to gameplay.
I feel like we need the sound clips from your old original Mole show for this.
No, this one also has other categories, but I will say, because
Okay.
these two were just like the ones, there were two we needed. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories.
Fair
So
enough.
to take us away with the second one, I'm going to say Richter goes first this time.
Okay, this is gameplay, you said?
Gameplay.
All right. So in each level, you could basically move around and aim the camera, as it were. And I guess this is a good time to mention what systems it is on, because that will help dictate how it's played. But it is on the Wii U and the 3DS. There are two versions of it. Because to move the camera, you basically use the gyroscopic sensor in the 3DS or the Wii U gamepad, if you so choose, to aim the camera, and the shoulder button will take the picture, so you can actually move it around as if it were a camera to look around the environment to take pictures and whatnot. And you have to, move around, kind of be stealthy, because you don't want the criminals to find you. You're just a dude you're a photographer for a newspaper. And each level, you have a time limit where you have to go to find the crime, not get caught, and take some good pictures. And then at the end of that, you receive a score based off the various pictures that you've taken.
Nice. I will say the Wii U having third-party support. Come on, we're trying to keep this
I know.
realistic.
We are? I don't know if pitching a DC game without a hero in it. I think that's. I don't know if any company would be like,
They would.
Well,
if it
it's a
was
cool
Joker.
idea. I don't, huh?
They would if it was a Joker spin-off from the Arkham series.
There you go.
But no, yeah, no, I like that gameplay. That sounds sort of like, what you call it, the Frank stuff of Dead Rising mixed with Pokemon Snap and Peter Parker missions, which I really like that. I do love camera games. So take us away next. Let's go James Phoenix.
Okay. Fair enough. So, gameplay, like I said, it's kind of an action-adventure game. It's mostly an action-adventure, go through levels, beat up bad guys, rinse, lather, repeat. I was primarily, in my mind at least, basing this on some semblance of the Arkham engine from Rocksteady, because I figured that's a pretty good combat engine overall, and for most of these guys, you're not going to be using stealth. This is pretty much all out war, so the stealth, it's basically just the combat engine. And the concept, the gameplay is basically, you start off as like I said, as Lex Luthor, and he gathers additional supervillains as you're going through different levels based on different tasks, or maybe beating them in a fight first, and then they agree to join you, pending on the storyline. And you can switch between the villains in given levels. There's different ones in each area, and you can switch between them and use their different powers. For example, Lex Luthor is in his armor, so he might have some enhanced strength, and some of the abilities you would see him have, for example, in Injustice, things like that. And you could switch to others like Captain Cold or maybe Deathstroke, whoever's with you at the time, and use their powers to defeat bad guys and to get around obstacles to inevitably get to where you need to be to trigger the next story cutscene to continue the story, and inevitably to fight off a member of the crime syndicate and proceed from there and work your way, inevitably following the goals as you go. It might be, okay, we need to get into LexCorp to get Lex's suit, or we need to get into the Watchtower to find the syndicate, whatever it might be, to generally meet the goals that are provided for you. And you can switch between the villains to do it any way that you like, it's a variety of powers. And sometimes you'll need certain villains to use powers, kind of like in a Lego game. You might need a certain villain's power to do something here versus a different villain here. But overall, it's just kind of walking around, beating up bad guys, occasionally solving a puzzle or two, maybe figuring out how to open a door and get around something, whatnot, or how to overcome certain bad guys that are attacking you, whatever. And yeah, that's about it.
Nice. So it's sort of like a more, and I don't mean any insult by this, but it's sort of like a more adult version of the Lego games. And I say I mean no insult because I do love the Lego games.
Yeah, that's exactly pretty much. Yeah, I was kind of.
Nice.
I was thinking basically it's kind of like the structure of a Lego game, but with the basis of the Arkham engine and a more darker version of it, where you're switching characters and you're fighting through areas, but it's there's more violence, there's actual blood, there's more of a it's more it's more like taking Mortal Kombat physics and graphics and putting them in a Lego game, kind of, with a little bit of Arkham Combat engine thrown in.
Nice. And now take us away. Contestant number two.
Fair enough. So yeah, like I said before, it's a point-and-click adventure game. Well, the first part of it, anyway. And it's basically, like I said, Riddler would give you like a layout of whatever heist or crime he's going to want you to commit. And he's like, okay, you have to go collect these different things before we can do the heist. Now, it's completely optional. You could choose not to do any of it if you want. It's just going to make the next part harder and could possibly give you some disadvantages. Or you could go through and collect everything and give you advantages and unlocks and whatnot. But it's all point-and-click, puzzle, adventure, like The Longest Journey. That's what I had in my head. Funcom's Longest Journey. And I had actually the developer for this was I have Firaxis Games and the publisher of Funcom and WB. WB obviously because DC. But so you would go around, you do these different puzzles and whatnot, collect things. Maybe you like say one thing. Maybe you have to break into, or figure out a puzzle to get something out of like impound or something. And then once you've collected everything, then you can say, okay, I want to go to the heist, which then goes into the squad-based part where you take your character, which as you're doing things, you would level up your character as well, which would be another reason to go do the puzzles and stuff because it would get you experience. But you take your character and Riddler's gang, and you would go execute these plans, which includes having to place Riddler's riddle at a specific point and place in the level. You'd have that in your little inventory. And based on how you do in that the level could shift dynamically. Like for instance, you might not want to kill police officers. You might want to, tase them or something. Non-lethal takedown, because if you kill too many people, or even if you tase too many people, like Batman might show up, or a member of the Bat family might show up. Or like Gordon will show up with SWAT or something, stuff like that. So that it could change depending on what you do in the mission. Also, how stealthy you are, how you choose to approach the mission will determine who or what shows up, if anything, during the mission. And also who you bring, because in some missions, you might get some named villains, like even Riddler himself. You'd also have the ability to unlock villains in this game, which would be the hero units of this game. And you could choose to bring one on your heist or something. So for instance, let's say your mission is to steal something out of a museum. You could choose to go through and acquire everything in the first part of the gameplay, which is the point and click, or you could say, I've unlocked Catwoman, I'm just going to bring Catwoman. Catwoman goes up to the rooftop, fucking uses her whip, which negates the need for, say, a rope and grappling hook and stuff. Gets inside, steals the item, and leaves without being seen. Which is, okay, you've now successfully done the mission, and you've done it stealthily, but you haven't gotten any of the bonus stuff. So you'd have your varied gameplay. It would be tailored basically to how you play the game. And eventually, would lead to what Riddler's ultimate caper is. Whatever that, maybe I hadn't planned it out that far, but it's you rising through the ranks in Riddler's organization.
Nice. Which I will say, I do love all three gameplays, but I'm going to have to say the winner of this round, Richter. Only because I feel the camera element adds a hell of a lot of replay value, if that makes sense. So I went with Richter for gameplay.
Yay.
So the next category is unique elements. And for this one, take us away first, James.
Alrighty. So I'm sorry, I heard you say me take it away, but I didn't quite hear you say the category name.
Oh, unique elements.
Unique elements. Ah. Okay, well, let me bring up my thing here. Let's see. Well, the most unique elements of this game primarily is the ability to play as all the supervillains, because there's a lot of supervillains that take place in the arc, and I would try to work at least the ones that were used primarily in the arc into this. So there would be a variety of the Rogues would be in there, Deathstroke is in there, Sinestro, so on and so forth, Black Mana. There's also uniqueness of fighting the Anti-Justice League, which is you're effectively fighting a version of the Justice League. So it's kind of like you're literally playing against them, you're actually directly fighting the heroes, which is kind of cool. So you don't get to do that very often in a lot of games. You're actually getting to fight equivalents of the heroes while playing against a wide variety of supervillains. And in addition to just playing against the supervillains I mentioned, I actually made up a couple based on the tie-in stories. I made a couple of DLC levels with even more villains. One of which is like Arkham War, where you play as a bunch of Batman's rogues. There's one called Rogues Rebellion, where you're playing as more of the rogues than the ones in the story. There's one called the Argus, where you're playing as Killer Frost and some of the members of that one new Justice League that Amanda Waller put together. That was mostly people that shouldn't really be in a Justice League. So really, just a wide variety of characters you can play as, and the fact that you're fighting against people that are anti-versions of the people who are normally the heroes in these kind of games gives it a very unique feel. And that this is the kind of world where the heroes are gone and the villains are the heroes, so it kind of turns everything on its head. And it's interesting to see how all the different villains react when everything's on its head, because one of the primary elements is that you're not only working with supervillains, you're fighting some of these villains, because the crime syndicate tried to unite all the villains under them as a greater syndicate. And some of the villains went along with this, and others decided, no, screw this, and they allied with Luthor, slowly but surely, to fight up against the syndicate. And so more and more turn tide as you join. So it's also a matter of who's actually on your side, who's not, how is this whole thing going to play out, and can you save the world from this darkest of days, as it were.
Nice. That does sound pretty unique. And next one, Marcus.
All right. Well, as I said before, playing as one of Riddler's goons, basically, it's kind of a gang war type thing. It's Riddler's crew versus the Gotham PD, and it's about you get to see things from almost a base level, kind of like crime boss type perspective of how do you pull off a caper, how do you get around the Gotham PD and stuff, how do you get pull off the caper without getting caught, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind this is the Batman city. So how do I do this without incurring the wrath of the Batman? And if he comes down, how do I beat him without any superpowers? And then, of course, should you decide to use characters with superpowers, like if you've unlocked them, like say Catwoman, Bane, etc., you also have to deal with the fact that if you bring them along, that increases the chance that a member of the Bat family or even Batman himself will show up. So it's a very much a thinking man's game, both on the point and click and the squad based, not necessarily shooter, but squad based strategy portions of the game, which you haven't really seen that I could tell in any superhero games really, of centering everything on puzzles and on thinking your way through it, as opposed to what powers can I use? Or, which button does the most damage? It's like, no, in this one you might want to actually avoid conflict.
Nice. And that does sound pretty cool. Although I would make the case of how you try to figure out how you don't get caught. You're working for the Riddler. Here's a clue. Don't leave riddles!
Yeah, well.
That sort of reminds me of Riddler. Always sort of reminds me of the Wet Bandits from Home Alone, when they only got caught because they got turned into taps on. But no, that does sound pretty unique. Like lots of elements can add up to various degrees of game.
Now come on, that's not their name anymore. They're just Sticky Bandits. Sticky Bandits.
Yeah. So now take us away, Richter.
All right. I'd say the biggest unique element for my game would be controlling the camera, because you can use the gyroscoping thing, and so you actually move around the 3DS to get a better angle for your shots, or the Wii U gamepad. So it kind of mimics the feel of a camera within a game with that, instead of just using the stick for it. Another unique element I would say is that you are playing as a somewhat well-known character, but not one you would ever think starring in a game. Because whenever you think like, oh, Metropolis and the Daily Planet, like, oh yeah, Superman, just be like, oh, okay, but no one would be like, oh man, like, let's play as Jimmy Olsen. You wouldn't necessarily think that. So I would say that is another one of the very unique elements of my game. Other than that, there's not really that many games centered around taking pictures, and that there's some element of danger with that, not just like leisurely sitting on a track taking pictures of cutesy, sometimes threatening animals, but actually trying to not get caught while taking good pictures, and to get a good score and whatnot.
Nice. I do like that. That does sound pretty cool. And yeah, Jimmy's not the one you'd think of to make a game off, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't have one. That does sound pretty cool. For that round, I'm going to have to give it to Marcus. Just because I kind of like the idea of the game evolving based on decisions, choices, and stuff like that. It's normally good. Like, it adds an element of like the BioWare-ish / evolve thing, where it's like, okay, we've messed up here, suddenly it costs us here, or we did well here, it rewards us here, and I'm like, that is kind of unique enough, and it compiles in a way. I think that's kind of cool.
Yay!
So now remember, if you don't have for the next two, if you don't have anything, that is okay. But for the next element to take us away first is Marcus. The next one is, do you have any multiplayer elements?
I was thinking about multiplayer for this game, but at the end of the day, with the way this game works, I couldn't really figure out a way to incorporate that, to be honest.
That's fair enough. Not every game does need multiplayer.
Yeah.
So next with this one, take us away, Richter.
I sadly have no multiplayer. It is a single player only experience.
Okay. And James.
Again, given that you noted that the similarities to what might be a Lego game, I figured there could be at least drop in local multiplayer where somebody else could pick up as one of the other supervillains on your team, and you could switch out and whatnot and use the supervillains during the gameplay. I hadn't really thought about any real online modes to it though, because I figured maybe you could play this online, but given that it's mostly based on the linear story structure, there wouldn't be a lot to do unless you're connected online, you're playing through the same levels together. I figured that'd get boring, so I was focusing mainly on having the local multiplayer.
And nice. I will say at the end of this one, I'm gonna give it a tie across the board.
Okay.
Only because very obviously those two didn't have multiplayer elements, and while you did, you seem to overlook the fact, based on the fact it was story and how you described your game, co-oping would have been perfect. Like literally, online co-oping would be great. Like we've complained multiple times, all of us, that we like co-op.
This is true. I just feel like with the co-oping, it would be more a matter of, I guess if you co-op through the story, I guess that would work. I never really think of games doing that much, but I guess that's true.
Yeah, that's because sadly they don't nowadays. It's all,
Yeah.
oh, we got multiplayer. Cool, what is it? Oh, it's deathmatch again.
Yeah.
Oh, cool, new multiplayer. What's this? Oh, you've renamed deathmatch. Bravo. But next, I will say, take us away first, Richter. This is, do you have any planned DLC?
I hadn't thought of any, but I could easily see, just adding new crimes, or new sections of town or whatnot. But I had not planned for any. But I could see possibilities there for, just levels, basically.
And fair enough. And I know we already know the answer to this, but James. That's James with a J.
Was that me?
Yes, that'd be you.
Okay, I didn't hear you say James or Marcus. Okay.
Wow, Rick, your game has a better Jimmy than this call.
I would not argue that Jimmy Olsen is better than me. Anyway, yes, I mentioned them briefly earlier. I had 4 DLC levels, and they're based on the one-shots that tied into the Forever Evil arc in the comics, which just happened to work out pretty well. One of them was called Argus, in which you play as Colonel Steve Trevor and Killer Frost. And basically, you're fighting through Washington, D.C. to locate and kill Dr. Light, who is formerly an evil plan to take advantage of the entire chaos going on because of the criminal syndicate. And that would also have interaction with the other members, or some of the other members of the organization currently known in the comics as the Justice League of America, which is not the same as the main league, the Superman and Batman League. This is a different league, because we needed that for some reason. This league has people like Catwoman is on there, although she's in the main arc, so she wouldn't be there. It would have Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, Green Arrow's on this one, and a few others. This league was put together by Amanda Waller as effectively an anti-league in case the main league went out of control. So basically, Colonel Steve Trevor is the leader of that league, and Argus is like the organization, like kind of the SHIELD type organization that he runs. So that will be a playthrough of that variety. The second one is called Rogue's Rebellion, and that one actually these actually take place concurrently with the events playing through in the main storyline. So it's like seeing more of what's going on. Rogue's Rebellion is you're playing against the Rogues, which are a group of mostly Flash's villains, as you might know: Captain Cold, Weather Wizard, Trickster, Mirror Master. And basically, you're playing as them as they end up. They go to try to stop Gorilla Grodd, who they find out has started taking over Central City in the time that they've been gone. And so in fighting Grodd, they also end up getting knocked over to Gotham, where they interact with a bunch of the Gotham villains, like Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze, Riddler, Bane, a few of them as well. And end up trying to fight and survive and fight some of them off in an attempt to stop the craziness going on there and get back to Central City to stop Grodd, which they inevitably will do. The third one is called Arkham War, which chronologically takes place after the last one, and that is one it's similar sort of to it's similar to Arkham City, except with more villains willingly working together. The way the story goes is that Emperor declared himself the mayor of Gotham when everything went to shit, and he basically started assigning territory to supervillains. And Scarecrow was kind of brought a lot of the supervillains together initially to be part of the new criminal syndicate and work with the new evil Justice League, although that kind of fell apart. So at this point, a lot of the supervillains like Scarecrow, Ivy, Freeze, Riddler, Croc, Man-Bat, Mad-Hatter, a few others, team up to take on Penguin, Emperor Blackgate, who was one of Penguin's minions who kind of took over Blackgate Prison, and Bane, who came to the city and kind of took over as leader of the Blackgate prisoners, along with some people known as the Talons, who were, I don't really know much about them, but I know that they're like agents of the Court of Owls. I haven't really read those arcs. I don't know much about the Court of Owls. Mulk could probably fill some of that in. But effectively, it's kind of the two groups of Gotham criminals fighting against each other for control of Gotham. So that's a whole nother arc. And the final one, I just kind of introduced this myself because I was trying to figure out how to integrate him into the story. And I realized I'd probably have him there as sort of an NPC in the main story. But he is kind of a primary element because, of course, he is because it's fucking DC and we can't do anything without fucking Batman. Batman was a member of the one member of the League who didn't get kidnapped because, of course, he is. So I made a DLC called Forever Night where basically you get to play as Batman through the way he's seeing all the events going on, which is basically the attack by the criminal syndicate initially, escaping with the body of Victor Stone after the cyborg implants rip themselves out and becomes the android known as Grid, working with Catwoman, eventually finding Luthor, teaming with him, working together through some of the fights that you were in the main storyline, but from the Batman side of things, because I figured that would be kind of a cool thing you could do. So those are my DLC.
And nice. Well, I would make the case playing as Batman would be a playable hero.
You said superhero. He is not a superhero. We defined that before.
We defined that when we made the rules of he would count because people always list him as a superhero.
Okay, well, you always argue that he's not. I thought we were going by your rules, but in that case, just knock that DLC out.
However, I would make the case it's DLC and it's just one bonus one. You did put a lot of effort into your DLC. I will allow it.
If you want to knock that deal, I have 3 other DLC packs. If you want to knock that one off, I'm fine with that. I just kind of tacked that one on at the last minute because I just felt like everybody playing this game like, okay, cool villains, but Batman's or why can't it be Batman? And I'd hear a lot of whiny pissant Game Boyers. So like, fine, here's DLC with fucking Batman. Leave me alone.
Yeah, which I could understand. And yeah, I've personally made the case if he's not a superhero before now because he doesn't have superpowers. However, I know people always count him because the amount of gadgets he has and his ability to plan is so super god-modded that it's like, well, you kind of have to.
This is true.
But like I said, it's cool. I don't mind allowing it because it's a bonus little throwaway DLC thing. The main point of your game would still stay intact, so I'd allow that. And lastly, take us away, Marcus.
All right, well, I didn't have anything actually planned, but since you mentioned DLC, I could totally see like extra capers, maybe even full-on mini campaigns that have multiple levels leading to something. I could see that being DLC with like extra playable characters, like maybe villains that don't make it into the main game. Like maybe you have one where at the end of it you end up summoning Solomon Grundy and he becomes playable. You know, you unlock him as playable, stuff like that. I could also see it certain capers or certain crimes being included to showcase maybe some heroes that are like extended Bat family. Like maybe I could totally see I could even see if you wanted to go outside of the Bat family but keep it in Gotham, I could see like maybe a crime campaign where Luthor comes in and you eventually unlock Luthor as a playable character and therefore you get to fight Superman, stuff like that.
And I could see
possibilities are almost endless with a game like this.
I could see that. I will say props to all of you for planned DLC for not saying, well, we'll just chop off a bit of the game, keep it on the disc, and charge you much more money later on. Well,
we're not Capcom.
Yeah. So I will say, for DLC, I'm going to give that to James. I feel he did put a lot of effort into his planned DLC structures.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's the only one that actually planned it, so yeah.
Well, to be fair, when I say planned DLC, I don't mean like, did you write out DLC? I mean, planned DLC is in when the game's made, they plan DLCs to release later on. So
Fair enough.
technically, what all of you did would count as planned DLC.
Fair enough.
Which I will say, looking at the results from James winning that one, the overall winner would be James. He managed to win 2 categories, and he did come second in another one as well. So overall, I think he had structurally the most sound plan.
Did we go through 5 categories? I thought that was only 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it was story, gameplay, unique element, multiplayer, planned DLC.
And that's DLC. Okay, fair enough. That is 5. I lost count. Fair enough.
Which means the first punch starter is James with a knockout blow. That's why I made a punch pun.
You did. That was nice.
It had to be done just because punch. And I will say for people listening, next month the next month's category is an original movie that's a cartoon. Example, it's a cartoon live-action hybrid. Example, Roger Rabbit. Not using existing properties. Example, Roger Rabbit. And the people planned to be contestants that month are Anastasia Laserbeam, Marcus Shadow, Aeon Rider, James Phoenix, and Richter Hammer.
That's going to be a long-ass video.
This one wasn't that long.
True. But I'm just saying you're going to have 2 extra contestants, so that's going to push the time up.
True, but I feel for a film like that, I might be able to do less categories. I don't know yet. But we'll see, and even if it is a little longer, it doesn't matter. But thank you for all watching PunchStarter, and thanks to all of our lovely contestants.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And congratulations to James Phoenix for being able to drive away today in his imaginary Prius.
Fictional car. Woo!
Yep, the imaginary Prius. No.
Imaginary Prius. Nice.
Yeah, because that's the only way of making a fake fictional car that sounds shit. It's a completely imaginary Prius. There we go.
Nice.
But no, thank you and goodbye.